just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away, and he was talking for I knew it. And as he grew, he'd say, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. My son turned 10 just the other day. He said, thanks for the ball, Dad, come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today, I got a lot to do. He said, that's okay, and he walked away, but his smile never dimmed. It said, I'm gonna be like him, yeah, you know I'm gonna be like him. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. Well, he came from college just the other day. So much like a man, I just had to say, son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while? He shook his head and he said with a smile, what I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later, can I have them, please? And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. I've long since retired, my son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I can find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle and the kids are the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you. And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. We're gonna have a good time then.
When I listened to the lyrics of that song, it struck me deeply. And if we are not intentional, unhealthy patterns can continue from one generation to another. Time flies so fast. The next thing you know, your newborn will start walking. And the next thing you know, that newborn or that kid will start having a group of friends. And the next thing you know, they don't want to go with you anymore. They will be more excited to go with their friends. So you and I have this great responsibility to be present parents to our kids. God has called us to break the cycle and build a godly legacy. And that requires our time, our presence, our attention, and our faith. We always have a conversation with our kids. One of the conversation is just some silly stuff like our kids. Dad, their house is so big. And what's their job? Why we cannot get that house? And we would always say, you know what, son? We can. We can do that. But you will not see your parents. Because we're going to work and work and work and pay for that house. So which one do you like? Big house or your parents? It's okay, Dad. We can have this house. I love this house. At least we wake up together, we pray together, we eat together, we spend time together. The greatest gift that we can give to our children is not everything they want, but a life that's consistently point them to Jesus. And that is what this series is all about. How we cannot point them to Jesus if we are not present. We cannot point them to Jesus if we are absentee parents and we set our priorities wrong. So today, let us look back at the 4 major issues that we have discussed in the past 4 weeks and discover how we can apply these things, these principles in our parenting in our home. Okay? The first issue that we address in this series is the growing gap between generations. And that's why we talk about bridging the generational gap. Bridging the gap between generations. And that is something that every family has actually experienced, right? Parents would often say, this generation, these kids are different. They think differently, they see things differently, they communicate differently, they have their own language, they value things differently. And the younger generation would often feel like, my parents don't understand me, my parents annoys me always, I grew up in a different world today, right? My parents grew up in a different world, I grew up in a different world, so that's why we don't connect. They don't know what it's like to live like today. And the result is there is a frustration, there is a disconnection, there is growing misunderstanding, and there is a build-up of distance in the relationship. And the Bible shows us that generations were never meant to compete with each other. We are supposed to complement with one another. The older generation will carry wisdom, perspective, and experience that they have over the years. Well, the younger generation, we bring some passion, creativity, and energy, the youthful energy. Our church is a young church. 46 or 49%, if I'm not mistaken, belong to the generation millennials and the X. And then Generation Z and the Alpha is another 46. The boomers are actually, and the silent generation are only less than 10%. But it doesn't mean that you boomers and the older generation are not important in this church. We need you. Kuya Roland. Where's Kuya Roland? No? Kuya Ferdy. No? Kuya Alex. We need you. We need your perspective. We need your wisdom. We need your experience to guide us, to help us see things that we don't see. And the younger generation is very needed as well to give some energy and a new perspective and new creativity. That's why when we talk about this, we appreciate the older generation. We honor the older generation. And we understand, a common understanding, that we have to invest to the younger generation. And the one takeaway that we have in this is this one. The older generation, you guys, us, to the next generation, the older generation to us, are to invest to the younger generation. And this is what the Bible says. Let each generation tell its children, invest to its children of your mighty acts. Let them proclaim your power. That is our role. Our role as parents is to tell the next generation, to invest to the next generation. And we understand from this series, from this message, that we're not supposed to teach them, but we're to model to them. And you remember this one, right? We talk about this because teaching will inform, but modeling transform. That's why we should not merely talk, give them set of rules, but we must model to them. We must have a real relationship with God to show to them, model to them, and have an open communication. If you miss this, you can always check our YouTube channel. And you can check there how we can model to the next generation to bridge the gap. Okay? Older generation to invest to the next generation. And then, of course, the younger generation is also, they also have some responsibilities. And that's how, younger generation, this is how you bridge the gap. The younger generation is to honor the older generation. How? You don't let anyone look down. Paul is talking to the young Timothy, his disciple Timothy. Do not let anyone look down on you for being young. Instead, make your speech, your words, your behavior, your love, your faith, and your purity an example for others. When we honor the older generation, comes before us, and invest in the generation that comes after us, we become part of God's beautiful plan of passing faith from one generation to another, of preserving the next generation. We build bridges instead of setting up barriers. If we do this, and this is what we learned in the first message, connection will grow deeper. Faith deepens. And generations will walk together with God. And I want to see that in this church. I want us, older generation, to really invest the next generation. And I want us, younger generation, to really honor the older generation. That was our first message. The second message in this series, we talk about communication disconnection, how to address this. And I think I titled this into the power of questions. Because there is always a person behind every question. The greatest struggle in every family is dealing with conversations. You sit in the same table, but you're not talking. You travel in the same car, but you're not talking. You are in the same house, but you can't even say hi to each other. And it feels emotionally stressed, distant from one another. And this is one of the ice that we need to break. We need to close the miscommunications or communication disconnection in the family. Sometimes the problem is not that we are talking. The problem is we are not truly listening. We hear the word, but we miss the heart behind the words. Yeah. And when that happens, misunderstanding will grow, frustration builds up, and then relationship begins to, drift apart. Our goal in message number 2 is to help our children feel loved, heard, understood, and help them and lead them towards Jesus. One of the most important lessons we learn in this message is it is not really about the question they ask. It is about the person behind the question. When our children ask difficult questions, they're often they're not really asking for more information. They're asking if, will you be there to listen to me? Will you be there to journey with me? Can I trust you with this information? Are you a safe place for me to share my struggle, as I seek the answers to this question? Will you still love me even if I ask hard or dumb questions? There is always a person behind the question. And we must take questions as opportunity to build connections. Questions are invitations to deeper conversations. Questions will open doors to stronger relationship. And that's how we should take every question that our kids or our friends, our loved ones will ask inside to us. So instead of reacting right away, why are you asking that question? You're not supposed to ask questions, just obey me. Instead of reacting right away, let's view every question an opportunity to understand the person deeper and guide them closer to Jesus. The practical approach we learn from this series is this one. You have to be ready to share the hope that you have. And I gave you this acronym. You treasure the person. You have to win the relationship. And you have to ask back because there is a deeper background about the question. And I think this is so deep. And also lead the truth with grace. You answer, you balance it with truth and grace. And you don't stop in one conversation, but you keep the conversation going. Keep it going, right? And our takeaway from this message, I think if you miss this again, please check our YouTube. Our takeaway from this message is this. Our children do not need parents who have all the answers. No. They don't need you to give them the answers. Some of you are afraid of their questions. Mom, Dad, where babies come from? No, don't be afraid. They don't need the answer. They need parents who are willing to listen. Parents who build connections. And parents who walk with them through their questions. Their questions, they're asking you to be present. When we take questions this way, we create a home where our children feel heard, understood, and feel safe to even ask whatever questions they have. And they have questions from different stages. From 0 to 6, that's a different question. 7 to 12, different question. Teenagers, they have a lot of questions. But if you will not entertain their questions from 0 to 6, 7 to 12, they will seek answers to their questions to other sources. If you will not talk to them about your reproductive system, sex, they will seek the answer to other people. And that's dangerous. In our home, we talk about sex. We talk about reproductive system. We talk about organs. We want to have an open communication. I would rather talk to my kids about sex than they would learn it from pornography. I would rather talk to my kids about relationship than they would seek advice from people who don't know them and don't have their best interests. They don't need parents who are smart. They need parents who are present. Parents that are safe. The third issue that we address in this series is the uncontrolled screen time. Uncontrolled screen time. And this is one of the biggest challenges facing families today. Screens are everywhere. TV is screen. Screen. TV. iPhone. Tablets. Computers. YouTube. Netflix. Disney. TikTok. All social media. Screens are everywhere. Now, technology is not bad. Technology is in fact good. A wonderful tool for learning. A wonderful tool for connection. You can talk with your parents or loved ones way back home while you are here. It's also good for creativity, to express yourself, and even ministry. That's why we have this screen, and that screen, and that screen, this screen. I need my screen for my notes. But when screens begin to control your attention, when screens begin to shape your desires, when screens replace your relationships with God and others, that becomes a serious problem. That's why we talk about this in the third message of this series. Because what captures our attention will shape our hearts. Think about this. What captures your attention will shape your thoughts. What captures your thoughts will shape your desire. What captures your desire will shape your habits. And what captures your habits will shape your character, and then eventually will shape your destiny. And it goes back to what captures your attention. Attention starts with your eyes. And that's why this topic is very important. That is why the real battle is not simply about screen time, but soul time. That's why I titled this message, Screen versus Soul. It is about who or what is discipling your soul, your children. Will their minds be shaped primarily by algorithms that they scan in your tablet, in their tablet or your phone? Influencers that they've been following? Or they will be shaped by the truth and the presence of God? Our goal in the third message was to help the families take back control of their attention and intentionally direct them towards what really matters most. And that is God and relationships. And I shared with you these practical principles that in the third message. I gave you the acronym FOCUS, right? Now, I will not go through this, but I want to leave this with you. Check your YouTube or your Right Now media. If you forget, we have an app available for you. We are paying that monthly. So take advantage of that. You have 25,000 resources in that app. That includes our messages, our training tools, everything that you can name, that you want to be equipped. If you want to know about that, ask Mitzi, Rick, or Chin outside later. Right? They are our staff. They will help you. Okay? Our takeaway from this third message is our children do not need unlimited access to screens. Screen time is not bad. Uncontrolled screen time is bad. They need parents who will help them guard their hearts, manage their attention, and prioritize what matters most. Right? When we teach our children to focus on God before the world, we help them develop hearts that are anchored in truth rather than distracted by everything around them. So, make sure, parents, to control. It's not bad. You can give them some rewards, but you have to control it. It's so hard to call their name, and then they will keep scanning. That's dangerous already. If they will not obey to you, the first word or first thing you ask them, do you have a problem already? They will not look at you, Kale, Nico, but they keep on scanning. That's dangerous. We have a one word, one command rule at home. Even on Friday night, Saturday, or whatever they watch TV, even when they do scanning, son, can you get me water? They will put whatever they're watching and get water. We have a visitor one time at home. Kale and Nico are playing. And then when I asked them, son, can you get my something upstairs? One word. If I notice that they will not obey in one word, detox time. No screen for the whole month. That's how you guard them, help them, guard their hearts, manage their attention. Because that will happen, I'm telling you. If we're not intentional, the next generation will be discipled by screens. The fourth message in this series is LGBTQ conversation on God's heart and God's design. And perhaps, more than any other topics that we discuss in this series, this one is the most sensitive and challenging conversations parents will have with their children. So I'm going to do, as I go to the end of our recap, I'll share with you one of our conversations with Gail. Okay? I know, just like me, just like us as parents, you want to know how to remain faithful to what the Bible says as you teach to your kids. How do you respond with compassion and love if your kids would ask about or have this conversation? How are you going to help your children understand both truth, God's design, and grace, God's love? Our goal in message number 4 is to help our children understand and balance those two things. God's design and God's love. Jesus have both, full of grace and truth. So this is what happened. In one of our father and sons talk with Cale, one of our neighbors, same age with him, one is a boy. He played with Cale. The other one is a boy, but cross-dresser at the age of 9 or 10. Makeup, long hair, and all. And another one, Cale also experienced, I asked his permission about this. Cale also have one of his friends who confessed that that person is part of LGBTQ. So out of his curiosity, Cale asked me, Dad, what is LGBTQ plus? And we are surprised. And many of you probably don't know or froze or getting scared or don't know what to answer. Then I shared, this is my answer with Cale, to Cale. LGBTQ plus is a term some people use to describe how they feel about who they like and who they think they are. It's about them, their feelings, their likings, and their thinkings. It's how they see, how they perceive, and it's all about them. A boy, I explained to him, a boy thinks that he is a girl and likes a boy. And Cale was like, huh? Yeah, that's what we call gay. And a girl who thinks that she is a boy and have a feelings with another boy, and he wants to think that he is a boy, when in fact he is a girl. Huh? So you got confused. And then, lesbian, gay, bisexual have same attractions with two sexes. Wait, Dad, there are two genders, right? That's what God said. That's what God's design. Why? Okay, I'll explain that further, okay, later. That's how our conversation goes. Relax, son. Let me explain. But let me explain further. He was like confused, right? And then LGBTQ, T, transgender, okay? And then queer, no? And then plus. This plus is, there is what they call asexual, pansexual, non-binary, right? Intersex, that's 1% of the population. No? Asexual is have that sexual attraction to others. Pansexual is they don't have sexual attraction to anyone. There's a lot, okay? I will not explain those things if you to figure out. But what I just basically explained to Cale is the gay and lesbian, okay? There's what you call gender fluid too, no? The gender identity that is not fixed and shift over time. There's what you call a gender, no? And some different kinds of sexual expressions, no? And explain to Cale, there's more in that conversation. The plus, some don't want to be dog, cats, rabbits. It's just how they want to be identified. That's why it's LGBTQ plus. It's a long definition of how they want to be identified. Then Cale have a follow-up question to me. This is another hard question. I shared this with you last Sunday. So, Dad, those people who are boy and think they are girl, and girl who think they're boy, and those people who have this sexual attraction with different kinds of sexuality or genders, are they bad people, Dad? Now, I have to balance, again, the grace and truth here. I have to be careful. I don't want my son to treat these people bad. And I don't want my son as well to just condone them. Because one of his friends is part of that community. Close friends. And the other one is our neighbor. So my grace-filled answer to Cale is this. Son, listen. All of us are sinners. all of us are bad people. That is why all of us need Jesus. And he understood that. Oh, yeah. He understood it right away. Yeah. No one is good, Dad. Yeah. And he remembered what I shared to him a few years back. Romans 3:10. There's no one is righteous, not even one. No one does good. No one is good. And then all have sinned and fall short of God's standard. And he remembered that. And then I explained further to Cale. Son, they are not bad people. They're not, what I mean is, they're not worse. All of us are bad, but they are not worse than anyone else. The truth is that all of us have sinned. All of us have struggles, and all of us need Jesus. And he made it, So LGBTQ are not that worse from us. All of us fell short of God's glory. And that is the grace part. No, I have to balance it. I don't want my son to think, okay, they're good. I have to balance it. And this is the truth part. And I said, son, on the other hand, God has a clear design and purpose for every area in our lives, including our sexuality. Then I further explained to Cale, God's creation design is never arbitrary. It's not about chance. There is a special good reason why God created us man and woman. It's not to limit us. It's not to give us restrictions. I explained that to him. The Bible says, Cale, that God created mankind with his own image, male and female. He created them. There are two genders. Yeah, I know about that, Dad. And that is God's design. And explain further about why God created us this way, why God have assigned sex to us. It's for human flourishing. And you imagine, son, a boy and boy will have relationship. Do you think they will have a baby? No, Dad. A girl and gay will have a relationship. Do you think they will have a sexual relationship? No, Dad. Then there is no people in this world if that will happen. Yeah, Dad. Yeah, Dad. He understood that. No? Now, all of us, while we have our own desire for our lives, God calls us to surrender all our desire. And explain to Cale, son, you know what? God called us to have a specific purpose. Now, this is for you guys. I did not share this to Cale, but this is for you. I have my own desire. If Jeff only, I would want to, if Jeff, okay? Jeff, not the Christian Jeff. I would have multiple girls. I would want to have a sexual relationship with multiple girls. Because that's Jeff. But that is not God's design for me. If you have a chance, you can also look for not your wife or not your husband. But that is not God's design for me. God designed me to be exclusively have a sexual relationship with my wife. One and only. Till death do us part. No other woman own this body, this beautiful body. Only my wife. And no other man would able to touch and see my wife's body. Only me. That's how God designed us. Does it mean I can do whatever I want to do? Yes, I can. But I will not be following God's design. So I explained that to Cale. That is the same with how God created us. Now, some people want to have a same-sex relationship. Is it God's design? No. And that's why it creates a lot of problems. Medically, socially, relationally, mental health. The reasons of majority of suicide came from LGBTQ. Now, of course, Cale did not stop there. Did I explain that for clear? Right? God have a design and purpose for our lives. And then Cale asked another question. Why do they feel like and think differently, Dad? Oh, another thing. What made them, in other words, what are the factors that make them think they are boy when they are girl, or they are girl when they are boy? What are the factors that help them feel like it? Think that way, feel that way, and like that way. Now, this is where I explained he can answer three. I gave him 3 reasons, and he can answer that. Ask him. He can answer this right away, straight. Okay? I gave him 3, but I'll give you 5. Okay? Based on research. First is abuse. Second is absence of father figure. Third is environment. And Kale would answer that right away. But I'll give you 5. Human development is complex. And many factors may shape our thinking, our emotional, our experiences, and our attractions. Let me give you 5, okay? The first one is what I said, abuse. Painful experiences, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, rejection can deeply affect how a person views relationship, how they trust people, and how they find to see their identity. Trauma can create confusion, identity insecurity. There is a big research conducted by Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is a university, it's a renowned research university based in Nashville. Okay? They reported that 83% of LGBTQ people have at least one adverse childhood experience of trauma, abuse, rejection, and attachment wounds. Now, let me explain, okay? I have to explain to you the correlation versus causation. Correlation means that it is possibly influence. But is it the cause that made them part of LGBTQ? No. Okay, let me clear. Correlations versus causations. Cost. Correlation is, there is a correlation between abuse and the people who find confused of their identity. But that is not scientifically identified as the cost. There is influence, but not applicable to everyone. Did you get my point? Okay, clear, huh? That's based on study, 83%. Another factor is the absence of father figure. That's why I shared that song. For many children, a healthy relationship with a father provides affirmation, security, and a sense of identity. Because they're in the age of development. They need their father to be there for them. When a father is physically absent, emotionally distant, and overly critical to their kids, that to the point that they will feel unloved, a child may grow longing for validation, longing for protection, and belonging. So I explained this to Kale actually. Now, boys often look for their fathers for affirmation. If you're a boy and you don't have a father figure at home, you're looking for that masculine affirmation. Now, if there's no father figure, you'll be influenced by other influence that the father could supposed to give to you. If you are a girl in a home that's fatherless, you will try to fill in that masculine. That's why, remember Jel's testimony last night, last Sunday? I shared the top 3 to her. Oh, I was not abused, kuya. When I shared the second reason, I don't have a father since I remember the time. That's why I fill in the masculine part of a father figure in our house. But let me be very clear. Let me be very clear again, okay? Many single mother are doing an incredible job raising godly children. Okay? Again, that doesn't come right away. Oh, that's why you're like that because you don't have a father. Never. Okay? There's a correlation, but there is no causation that will prove that that's the cause. That's why they're LGBTQ. Understand? Clear? Okay? Don't make that conclusion right away. Okay? Now, if you don't have a father figure, it's okay. My father, he is not absent, but he's distant from me. I hated my father. I shared that with you. To the point that I want to kill him. But it doesn't affect me because God can heal whatever deepest wounds that you can have, that you have with your relationship with your father. Okay? And He will provide what is missing in your family, what is missing in your influence. Okay? So that does not mean that a person without a father figure will experience identity struggles or crisis. Doesn't mean that way. Okay? The third reason is family relationships and attachment. No? The home environment plays a major role in shaping a child's emotional world. That's why a relational family, and there's a strong attachment and bond within the family, that's a big factor to help them find their identity and security. But a person who doesn't have this attachment with the family, that's again correlated, that would probably affect their developmental, emotional, looking for affirmation and belonging. That's why they're struggling with their identity. No? A secure and healthy attachment with children develop confidence and emotional stability. That's why it's very important. You show your affection to your kids. You show you love them. You tell them, I love you. Let them tell you, I love you. Let them hug you. Let them embrace you. Because that is very important in their development. Finding their identity and belonging. Next one is social environment and peer influence. This is the third one that I shared to Kale. But this is the fourth in my list here. This plays a huge factor for some people. Friends, classmates, social circles. I have interviewed a lot of LGBTQ. Some of them would share this. Some of them would share this. But so far, all of them would share this. They have a classmate who is part of LGBTQ. They have their friends, they have their relatives, they have their loved ones that are part of LGBTQ. Their social circles have a powerful impact, especially during their adolescence years. That's why most of the cases they would identify as part of LGBTQ at the age of 7, 8, 9, 10. Because that's the start of their building friendship around them. Now, they have the desire to belong, to be accepted. And that's why it's very crucial for us, church, to be the safe place for these people. Because if they're not safe here, they will look for a circle or community that they feel accepted. You know what? When I go to church, they would reject me. They would judge me. They would condemn me. But when I am with LGBTQ community friends, I feel so accepted. I feel free. That's not supposed to be the case. I pray, just like what I declared in the last message last Sunday, I want LCC a safe place for everyone, regardless of your sexuality. We welcome you because you are created in the image of God. Last in my list is this, the cultural messages and media exposure. That's why a lot of people is protesting about the cartoon characters who have same-sex relationships. Disney Plus, right? Before they don't have that. But now they're promoting it. Now, like what I said, last Sunday, I did not take the approach to political. But this is a different story with regards to our kids. Some kids, some drag queens, I would not allow that. Drag queens would go to toddlers, school, kindergarten, and they would wear their costume as drag queens, and then they would read sexuality, same-sex relationship. I am against that. I am against that. Because these are kids. And if we keep on giving this cultural message to them, at the age of 5, 6, 7, you would let them choose their gender? They don't know. That's why these factors will influence their sexuality. When these messages are repeated often enough, they can normalize certain ideas in their mind and shape how people will interpret their feelings and desires. It's very crucial. Culture can become a powerful discipling force if families are not intentional about grounding their children in biblical truths. The key is in you, parents, godparents, to help save the next generation from cultural shift and misleading messages. Now, the whole goal of this message last Sunday is finding our identity in no one else but Jesus. Then Kale asked me, "He's not done yet." Kids have many questions. The last question, I don't know if this is the last, but this is what I could think. What should I do? How should I relate to them? You know, I shared with you about Kale. Remember before when I shared about Roan's parents that are Muslims, and my parents are Jehovah's Witnesses, and when he discovered, he realized that, what? When he know that, what? Nana and Nana don't believe Jesus as God? We have to tell them that. We have to tell them. And that's how passionate he is. And now, when he understood all these factors that contributed to how they feel, how they like, how they think, these people from LGBTQ who are not living in God's design, and we love them. Kale said, I love Kale prayed for his friend who confessed that person is part of the LGBTQ. Dad, what should I do? I have to tell that person that he or she must live according to God's design. And this is what I said to Kale. Son, the first thing you can do is pray for them. Pray for them. Pray for them that they would encounter Jesus. Pray for them that they would submit their desire to Jesus. The same that I submitted my desire to exclusively for my wife only. And many of you, pray that we will live according to God's design. And I said to Kale, son, love them regardless of their thinking about themselves, liking, or feeling. Love them because God taught us to love others. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the next greatest, same as the first, is to love others. That comprised the whole Bible. And then I told him, after you pray and love them, be there. Be there for them. This is what I believe. And this is my principle. I will not persuade someone to believe what I believe, but I will share the hope that I have. And it's up to them if they would accept it. Because I know one day, these people who feels like and think their way will come to a realization that they need Jesus. And I want, when that day comes, I want Jeff Basco will be the first on their list. When they realize, you know what, I'm not living according to God's design. I'm not surrendering my desire to God. I'm not following Jesus. And I need meaning. I need purpose. I need something. Oh, Jeff will not reject me. Jeff will not condemn me. Jeff will not abandon me. Jeff will not judge me. Let me call Jeff before I end my life. And I explained that to my son. Son, pray for them. Love them. And be there for them. He prayed. He prayed. My goodness, he prayed. And then he communicated, I love you. I'm praying for you. And then one day, that friend of my son, they had a call with their friends. That person said, I broke up with my same-sex relationship at the age of 11 or 12. Right after they hung up the phone, Kale, Dad, God answered our prayer. He was so excited. God answered our prayer. That person that I told you, they're not, he or she is not part of LGBTQ anymore. And he prayed again and thanked God. So my prayer, friends, is this. Balance. What if my son what if I was not there for my son? What if I told my son, stay away from that friend? How would he feel? How would that person feel? What if my son would say, you know what? Keep your circles with those only not part of LGBT. How would he feel? He would have resentment and bitterness in his heart. My presence, by God's grace, have helped him love people and never compromise the truth. So my message last Sunday, our takeaway is this. Our children need to understand that we can hold firmly the biblical truth and loving people deeply. We don't need to choose between the two because Jesus exemplified and showed love and truth. And when we teach our children to do the same, they will learn how to stand for God's design while extending God's love to everyone they met. So let me ask you, parents. Let me ask you, parents, or grandparents, or young people. You know one day you'll be parents too. Who is shaping your children most right now? Or young people who are shaping you right now? Is it social media? Their friends, their classmates, YouTube, their teachers, roadblocks? The culture around them? Or you? Or more importantly, is Jesus shaping your children? Because whether we realize it or not, someone, somehow, somewhere, something is discipling our children every single day. The world is speaking so loud. But God has called you, parents, to speak intentionally. God did not choose us to be perfect parents. God chose us and called us to be present parents. Parents who will build bridges across generations. Parents who welcome hard questions because they want to have an open communication and deeper conversation. Parents who will guard their children's heart and attention because that attention will carry them through their destination. Attention, desire, character up to destination. They need present parents who will speak the truth with grace and love, balancing God's design and God's love. They need parents who will model what it means to follow Jesus. Not rejecting the truth and following the grace, or not rejecting the grace and following the truth, but balance of truth and grace. Our children do not need parents who have all the answers. They need parents who love Jesus deeply and consistently pointing them to Jesus. They need parents who will invest in them, listen to them, pray for them, love them, and walk with them. What pushed me to have this series is the 60 plus kids in this church. If we will not do things right, those 60 kids will be influenced, 60 children, and more coming, will be influenced by this world. You and I have a responsibility to carry. Parents. And you, young people. My kids is following you tonight. Mark, Moses, Lil J, who's that handsome guy? Aaron. Our kids is following them. You have a role. You must set an example. Kevin, Marvin, you must set an example to the young generation. We must take responsibility here. Years from now, our kids will not remember every rule we give them. They will not remember every rule we gave them. They will not remember everything that we give them. But they will remember whether you are present or not. They will remember whether you listened to their question. They will remember whether you love them when they confess something. That's why my rule at home, what's my rule, LJ? Whatever happens, my love for you will never change. That's my assurance to my kids. Whatever you have done, whatever you have become, my love for you will never change. I might discipline you, but that will not change a bit of my heart for you. One day, they will not remember the rules, but they will remember how you love them. They will remember how you match your words with your actions. They will remember how you showed them Jesus, how you modeled them Jesus, how you carry out the greatest calling of being their parents. Not merely raising successful kids, not merely raising well-behaved kids, but raising disciples of Jesus. Children who know the truth and live by the truth. Children who experience grace and extend grace. Because they are not better than I do. I am not better than them. We are all fallen. And we all need Jesus. Children who love God and love people because they saw that in you. Children who follow Jesus faithfully. So let us be intentional. If you're a parent, be intentional in raising your kids. If you're godparents, be intentional in supporting your children as they raise their kids. If you're young people, be intentional in modeling, setting an example in your speech, in your action, in your purity, in your words, in everything to the next, to younger generation. Let us break the cycle, folks. Did you hear the song? It goes round. Let us break the cycle. Our commitment, and I share this with you many times. If you would see our life, our relatives, you see the life of my wife. It is God who really preserves us, and we want to cut the curse and pass on blessings to the next generation. Let us redeem our time. Let us welcome questions. Let's develop open communication. Let's guard our hearts and their hearts. Let's model authentic faith. Because one day, our children will have their own children. The faith that we live today will become the legacy that will pass, that they will pass tomorrow. Whenever we make disciples, whenever we meet with couples, there's a part there where I would say, you know what? 100 years from now, no one will know the name Jeff Basco and Roan Basco. But I want my great-great-great-grandchildren, when someone would ask them one day, why do you love Jesus? I want my great-great-great-grandchildren to answer, because my great-great-great-grandfather, Jeff Basco, and my great-great-great-grandmother, Ron Basco, loved Jesus and passed on a godly legacy to my great-great-grandfather and grandfather and grandfather. Years from now, no one will remember your name. But you can make a difference, one person at a time. And God will hold you accountable to the child, to the kids that they entrusted to you. So parents, the challenge is very clear. You cannot filter everything your children will encounter, but you can faithfully guide them to the one who is truth, love, and life, the Lord Jesus Christ. And if you do, you are not just raising children. You are shaping the next generation, all for the glory of God. I hope and pray that you will take this series with you. Take all the principles with you. Live by them. Teach them. And show this to the generation down the line. I really pray that LCC will be a church that is intentional in loving people and communicating the truth.